Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for December 7th. December 7th is the 341st day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 342nd in leap years, with 24 days remaining to the end of the year. December 7th is National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day in the United States. Today's word is taxi. Taxi can be a noun or a verb. Now, I'm sure everyone here watching knows what taxi means or what a taxi is, but I became curious as to the origin of this word. How did we come by it? Where does it come from? And that's exactly the sort of thing we look at in this Word of the Day segment. So, first of all, as a noun, the word taxi refers to a taxi cab, another word that uses itself to describe itself. But as a noun, a taxi can be the wheeled vehicle we think of, or it could be a similarly operated boat or aircraft. As a verb, taxi usually refers to the situation where an aircraft goes at low speed along the surface of the ground or water, or to operate an aircraft on the ground under its own power, or to ride in a taxi cab, as in, I taxied to the train station, or the plane taxied slowly toward the runway, or the pilot taxied the plane to the runway. All right then, where did the word taxi come from? It looks like that in the late 1800s there was a word coined from a medieval Latin word, taxa, that meant to tax or charge. In the early 1900s, then, a device was invented, an automatic meter that could record the distance and fare for a ride or for a ride for hire. We first see the word taximeter in the 1890s, and then we see a shortening of taximeter to simply taxi in 1907. A taxi cab, then, is a motor car fitted with a taximeter. The word taxi has been applied to such vehicles. One might also see the term taxi dancer, which is a woman whose services could be hired at a dance hall in the 1930s. In 1966, the term taxi squad came about, referring to people who were reserve players for a particular football team, and the team owner also happened to own a taxi cab company, and he would give his reserve players jobs as taxi cab drivers in order to keep them paid and available. Could also have to do with the notion of a short-term hire or shuttling back and forth between jobs. So now we know, taxi. Remember, if you have a word you'd like us to explore in this Word of the Day section, drop it in the comments and we'll take a look at it. December 7, 1787, Delaware became the first state to ratify the United States Constitution. Albert Einstein was granted an American visa on December 7, 1932. On December 7, 1941, the Imperial Japanese Navy carried out a surprise attack on the United States Pacific Fleet and its defending Army and Marine Air Forces at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. This is the birthday of Harold Foster Chapin, born December 7, 1942. We know him better as folk rock singer Harry Chapin. Had 11 albums in the 1970s and early 80s and sold over 16 million records worldwide, and all 14 singles that he released charted. He was interested in humanitarian matters, particularly in ending world hunger. Sadly, Harry Chapin died in a car crash in July of 1981 when he was only 38 years old. If you're curious about other things that I might have talked about in previous episodes for December 7, I'll include a link for you if you'd like to check that out. And in honor of the birthday of Harry Chapin, we'll take a look at one of his popular and highly successful songs called Taxi. Written by Harry Chapin, of course, he debuted this song on the NBC Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Viewers loved it and him and flooded the show with calls and telegrams asking for Harry Chapin to come back to the show. was the first time in the show's history that Johnny Carson brought a performer back the very next night for an encore performance. The song Taxi tells the story of a cab driver whose last fare of the evening is a woman in an expensive gown. She seems familiar to him, but he doesn't quite connect until she looks at his taxi license and realizes who he is. They had been an item earlier, but parted ways to follow their separate dreams. If you're familiar with the song, you know how it goes, but if you don't know it, I'm not going to ruin it for you. I'll leave a link and you can go listen to it yourself and find out what happened between them. Interestingly, fans were intensely curious about what might have happened between these two fictional characters after the time frame of this actual song. So nearly a decade later, he wrote a song called Sequel and talks a little bit more about what happened between those two characters. I'll leave a link to that one also. Interestingly, William Shatner did a cover version of Taxi on the TV show Dinah, and Lee Hazelwood covered Taxi on his album I'll Be Your Baby Tonight. Taxi by Harry Chapin. Link in the description. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoyed this series, check out the playlist that contains these videos, and I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page that's called No Really. You can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again and all. See you next time. This is the birthday.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I wasn't talking to you. Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for... Oh, where's your microphone? Okay, we don't want to say the same thing twice. Oh, get your microphone. What is it with you and this microphone? Okay, here we go. Okay, we are still recording. That's great. Okay. How about that? We'll have a lot to edit today. Cacophony is a sound. Cacophony is a noun that you got to read it the right way. Let's start over. It's 8 o'clock, so all of the reminders are going to be dinging. I forgot to turn those off. Okay, stop it. Don't alienate people who can be helpful to you. Flinging happiness all over the place. Alrighty, back to work. I think we got it this time.